The note cracked the silence like glass. It wasn't supposed to happen. Not here. Not in the fluorescent hum of St. Eustace Nursing Home, where Tuesday afternoons died quietly in plastic chairs. A student choir from Briarwood College was performing, an ill-advised opera medley in the rec room, their voices fumbling over foreign syllables. No one cared. Not the elderly slumped in wheelchairs. Not the two nurses whispering about last night's episode of The Bachelor. Not even the girl filming the performance on Instagram Live, captioned, "Opera in the Wild, Someone Save Us." Then came the sound, click, drag, An aluminum walker scraped across the floor, its tennis ball feet protesting with every inch. All heads turned. The students faltered mid-phrase. He emerged from the back like a phantom, a gaunt, sunken man in a washed-out cardigan, his eyes cloudy, his mouth slack. He looked like he didn't even know where he was. "Who let that one wander?" someone whispered. He stopped center aisle, tilted his head, and sang. The note rose, not from his throat, but from something deeper. It split the air clean in half. Vibrato, perfect. Tone, ancient. Pain, immediate. Phones fell, mouths opened. A nurse dropped her clipboard. Jesus Christ. One of the students muttered. The live stream chat exploded. "Yo, who is that? Is this part of the act? He's singing the second verse, WTF. This just turned into a ghost story." The choir froze. The old man didn't. His eyes gleamed not with recognition but with memory, like his soul had heard something his body had forgotten, and in that single, impossible note, time stopped. He reached the final phrase the students hadn't dared. Tempt. His voice trembled, cracked, and soared. Silence. A beat later, the room erupted. Gasps. Someone clapped. A girl in the front row covered her mouth. The man stood there, chest heaving, eyes wet. Then one word slipped from his lips. Barely. A whisper. Viola. No one knew who she was, but in that moment everyone did. They didn't call him Edward. In the intake form, he was Mr. E. Bowman. No known next of kin, no allergies, no words. He arrived on a Tuesday, escorted by two men in scrubs and silence. All he carried was a single suitcase, one pair of brown shoes that didn't fit, and a vinyl record, cracked at the edges, its label worn to dust. The nurses filed him under long-term memory loss, stage 5 Alzheimer's. By dinner, he was just another ghost in the hallway. Nobody asked questions. St. Eustace wasn't built for stories. It was a waiting room before the end. He didn't speak. He didn't react. He didn't flinch during injections. During music hour, when staff played Elvis or Sinatra, he'd stare at the ceiling like the notes were just birds flying away, except when it rained. On stormy nights, the thunder would roll, and he'd hum. Just one note. Always the same. A soft, quivering line floating from his throat like a thread caught in the wind, and every time he cried, it terrified the new nurses. "Is he in pain?" "No," said Maria. She was the only one who stayed past her shift, the only one who spoke to him as if he was still listening. She noticed how his fingers twitched, 2 beats behind every chime, as if conducting silence. She began to test. Dewey played Chopin through her phone. No reaction. Switched to jazz, still nothing. Then one night she sang. She hadn't meant to. She was scrubbing the floor near his bed, half singing Caro Gnome under her breath when the room went still. His head turned. He hummed the phrase back. Perfectly. She dropped the mop. That night she sat beside him and played old opera arias off YouTube. Some he ignored. Some made him shift. One made him sob. She wrote it all down. 3 weeks later she brought in a keyboard. He didn't respond. Not at first. But when she left it on, playing arpeggios softly, he lifted one trembling finger and tapped a single key, middle C. From then on, every Thursday night became their ritual. No words, just music. She asked once gently, "Do you remember who you were?" He blinked, shook his head, then whispered something she almost didn't hear. Her hands. "They taught me the last note." Maria searched the system. No family, no wife, no record of any performance career. Just a scribbled note on the admission file. found wandering near the church, kept saying La Scala, Viola, the aria. Most dismissed it as dementia. But Maria didn't, because every time he touched that final note, his eyes filled with light, like he was almost back. It began with a mistake. Maria played the wrong piece one evening. She meant to hit La Traviata, but her thumb brushed Rusalka instead. And something happened. He sat up. Not fully. His back still curved, arms frail, but his eyes locked onto the sound like it was a beacon. His lips moved, shaping words that had no voice. Maria held her breath. He sang 2 bars, then stopped. Tears streamed down his face like ink bleeding through parchment. From that night on, Maria experimented. She printed arias, whispered lines while changing his bedsheets. She hid tiny speakers around his room, playing Puccini, Bellini, Donizetti. Sometimes nothing, sometimes flickers. Then came Cavalleria Rusticana. She played the intermezzo. He wept so violently she had to hold him. That's when she knew. He didn't remember facts, didn't know his name. But music wasn't in his head. It was in his bones. She recorded short videos, not for clout, just for proof, or a clip of his hand tapping 3/4 rhythm. Another of him humming when she played the diminished 6th. Another where he mouthed Brindisi before the chorus began. She stored them all in a hidden folder titled, The Man Who Remembers Music, by. Then the students were planning their visit. Community service hours, end-of-term credits. They didn't take it seriously. "Let's sing something dramatic," one boy said. "Like opera or whatever." They rehearsed half-heartedly. Didn't bother learning pronunciation. Treated it like a gag. Maria heard them practicing in the hall and wanted to scream, flat, hollow, soulless, like dragging a sacred thing through dirt. But she didn't say anything, because in the back of her mind, a thought was blooming, dangerous and fragile. What if he heard them? What if he stood? The day of the performance, she dressed him herself. Fresh shave, a pressed white shirt she'd ironed that morning, hair combed back the way she imagined. He once wore it before curtain calls. He looked at her and asked, "Is it raining?" She smiled. "No, maestro, not yet." They wheeled him into the back row. The students stepped onto the stage, laughing nervously. They sang the opening to O, Mio Babino Caro, off-key, no rhythm. Maria winced. The old man sat stone still. Then on the bridge, something in the soprano's voice, accidentally, hit the key. His hand jerked. He grabbed the arms of his chair, stood, walker in hand. I turned. The room shifted. Even before he sang, Maria knew. He remembered the note. The video was uploaded within minutes. At first it looked like a joke. Old guy crashes student performance. And slays? By midnight, it had 100,000 views. By sunrise, it was on the front page of Reddit under Our Unexpected Musical Genius. Someone slowed down the video, boosted the audio, and isolated his voice. It sounded like velvet scraped against time. People demanded answers. Who is he? Where did he train? Why isn't he famous? That's when someone zoomed in on the vinyl in the background, still sitting on the table where Maria left it. The label read, La Traviata, 1974, Edward Bowman and Viola Lenz. A few clicks later, it unraveled. Opera forums exploded. He's not just someone, he's the one. Edward Bowman, principal tenor of the Vienna State Opera in the 70s and 80s, known for his partnership and marriage to soprano Viola Lenz. They were considered the golden duet of their generation, until she died suddenly in 2012. He vanished shortly after. No official statement, no funeral photos, just one article titled, "Tenor Withdraws from Stage After Wife's Death." Then nothing. Until now. Maria's phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, emails, reporters, former orchestra members. One woman claimed Bowman saved her from suicide in 1986 after a rehearsal. Another swore he taught her how to breathe correctly in Berlin. The nursing home didn't know what to do. The director suggested staging another performance. "It could be good for publicity," he said. Maria nearly slapped him. "He's not a zoo animal," she snapped. but the choir students begged. "It's for closure," the soprano girl whispered. He changed the way I hear my own voice. Maria approached him the next evening. He was back in his chair, silent, staring out the window as if the world had slipped away again. "Do you want to sing?" she asked softly. He didn't answer. She played the recording back. Just that one note, the one that cracked everything open. He looked at her. "They're not her," he said. "The air doesn't carry it right." Then he closed his eyes. They turned the rec room into a cathedral, cameras mounted on tripods, stage lights rigged onto IV stands, a velvet curtain borrowed from the town theater, wrinkled but sacred. The students rehearsed for real this time, trembling between notes. Not for credit anymore, for penance. The livestream countdown began at 6:55 p.m. By 7:03 p.m., over 430,000 people were watching. At 7:08 p.m., Maria rolled Edward Bowman to center stage. He didn't speak, didn't look at the cameras, just held the vinyl in his lap like it was a prayer book. Behind him, the choir began, soft, scared. They sang the first stanza. He didn't move. Viewers started commenting, "He's not gonna do it. Let the man rest. Maybe he forgot." Again? No, wait. At 7:12 p.m., Maria stepped onto the stage holding a folded paper. She opened it. "I found this inside his record." She didn't explain who wrote it. She didn't need to. She read aloud. "Remember the final. Note Eddie. It's always where I'll wait. V." The room fell still. A single student struck the first chord. Edward looked up and stood, not with the walker, not with help, on his own. The first sound he made was breathless, raw. He coughed, then tried again. The second note cracked, but the third rang out like a storm being born. Someone in the crowd gasped. The comments went berserk. "He's doing it." Im sobbing. "I haven't heard this since Milan in 2003. His wife is in that note, bro, what TFFF he," sang the entire area. Every word, every line, not perfectly, but truthfully. And then something none of them expected. He turned to face the camera. Voice shaking, hands trembling, he spoke. "She taught me the last note so I'd never forget where to find her." Then he lifted his arms, conducted the final chord himself. The choir followed him like planets following gravity. And in that last measure, time cracked. A student in the front row stood up, tears streaming. One of the nurses dropped to her knees. Former soprano watching from Paris fainted on live stream. And in a control room in Los Angeles, a retired opera director sobbed uncontrollably, whispering, "He came back." The aria ended in silence. No applause, no breath, just the weight of a love too powerful for death. Then Edward stepped back, bowed once, and collapsed gently into Maria's arms. He didn't wake up. The doctors said it wasn't a stroke, not a coma, just silence, like a curtain falling gently after the final scene. Maria sat by his bed every night, played the aria on loop. He didn't move, but his heartbeat, slow and steady, seemed to pulse in time with the music. The world outside didn't wait. The clip of his final performance hit 14 million views in 2 days. Major opera houses held candlelight vigils. TikTok duets flooded in, some beautiful, others shaky but sincere. Reaction videos racked up millions, grown men weeping, teenagers stunned, voice coaches speechless. Then came the letters. First, a handwritten one from Rome. "He taught me to breathe between pain. I was 12. He changed my life." Then a package from Vienna. Original posters from La Traviata, signed, "To my viola, forever." A librarian in Naples sent a cassette tape, dated 1985. Bowman and Lenz performing a duet not listed in any archive. The audio was scratchy, but their voices, even broken by time, they danced. Maria cataloged everything. She created a digital archive titled The Last Note. By week 3, donations flooded the nursing home, enough to rebuild 3 Wings Fund, full-time music therapy, and send 2 of the choir students to conservatory. But Edward, still silent. On the 26th day, the rain returned. The staff let Maria stay past visiting hours. She sat beside him, the room lit by one low lamp, and whispered, "It's raining, maestro." Then she opened the letter again, the one she'd read on stage, only this time, she sang it softly, one line at a time. When she reached the final phrase, "It's always where I'll wait," his hand moved barely, but enough. His fingers twitched in rhythm. She smiled and cried. He didn't open his eyes, didn't speak, but in that small gesture, fragile, defiant, he answered. The boy in Detroit was the first, 9 years old, nonverbal. Hadn't spoken since his mother died. His grandmother played Edward's final performance on a tablet during lunch. The boy stared. Then, out of nowhere, he hummed. Just one note. Perfectly, in tune. The staff screamed. Word spread. They called it the last note effect. In Kansas City, an elderly woman who hadn't recognized her own daughter in years suddenly recited a full verse from La Bohème after hearing the aria. In Toronto, a veteran with PTSD began tapping out rhythms again. In Seoul, a blind pianist claimed she saw her mother's face during Edward's vibrato. Maria didn't seek attention, but attention found her. She was invited to speak, refused, then asked to lead. She said yes. The Last Note Project was born. Not just a charity, a movement. Volunteers trained in music therapy began visiting nursing homes, rehab centers, even prisons. Each brought one song, Edward's aria, one performance. One moment of silence afterward. Sometimes that was enough, a whisper, a sigh, a hand twitching to life. The project went global in under a year. Maria kept his vinyl, played it before every event. At first, people thought she was being dramatic until they heard it and understood. It wasn't nostalgia. It was invocation. Few months in, she added something new. At the end of each session, she sang Viola's letter, the one that brought Edward back. She never explained what it meant, but every time she reached the line, "It's always where I'll wait," there was a pause and someone, somewhere, would sing. It happened on a Tuesday. Maria was scrolling late at night when a notification popped up. Maestro Legacy had tagged her in a video. She clicked. A boy, maybe 13, stood in a dim garage, dust floating like ash in the warm light. He was barefoot, wearing an oversized t-shirt. No instruments, just him, and silence. Then he sang the aria, Edward's aria, note for note. His voice cracked halfway. He stopped, started again, but when he reached the final note, he didn't flinch. He held it soft, steady, like someone had placed a hand on his back and whispered, "You can." The camera shook. Whoever filmed was crying. In the corner, a comment thread exploded. "I miss someone I never met. Why does this feel like church? He's still here. I heard her in that note too. It's always where I'll wait." Maria didn't comment. Not at first. She just watched, replayed it, once, twice, then a third time, her hand covering her mouth. She scrolled to the comment box, typed 7 words, paused, then posted, "She always said he'd find his way back," and closed her phone. She didn't cry. She just sat there, eyes closed, as if listening for something that hadn't arrived yet, but was close. Outside, the wind rose, and somewhere far away, a single note rang through an open window, and never faded. If this story touched something silent inside you, sing for someone who can't. Share the note, leave a light, and remember, sometimes all it takes is one final note to bring a lifetime back.